Okay, so today we're talking about same-sex marriage, and the things they deal with. Like, they can't adopt or get fertility, how they can't work at private schools, or how they can't get goods and services that are involved within the wedding area. So, a shocking fact is that 21.4% of same-sex couples are adopting children, while only 3% are of opposite-sex couples, which leaves 75.6% not adopted. And California has the biggest rate of adoption in the United States, with 16,000 children adopted in California with same-sex couples. And another thing is, same-sex couples are more likely to adopt children at a younger age than opposite-sex couples, with opposite-sex couples being at the age of 41, as opposed to same-sex couples at the age of 39, which is a 3-year difference, if I can do math right. 9, 10, yep, 3-year difference. I can do math right, alright. And well, let's just go to the next slide. Okay. This slide is now blank. Okay, thank you for rendering no kids. As I was saying before, even though in California it is that they are allowed to adopt same-sex couples, even including Florida and 5 other states, which they are allowed to get children, there is states that still don't allow it. You can go to a Christian-based adoption place and they will deny you adoption just because you are married to somebody that is your same sex. Same goes with fertility, except for in New York, where they actually have one of the senators or congressmen, which was at USA.Congress, some website that I remember searching up, actually stated that New York has to compensate for that, and it has to be covered by them, that they cannot get denied fertility just because the way they are dating somebody or married to somebody to the same sex, but they still have to wait until the age of 39, I think. Yeah, because the way gynecologists decided to say that it is almost like having a disease to where you can't have children, but they are not going down the normal course of sexual intercourse, and so now they can't go through the normal route of doing it. But there is a lot of places that can adopt, which is contradicting my point very sadly. Same with fertility. Can't work at private schools whenever this thing decides to render. Thank you. They cannot work at private schools, but they can work at public schools, which is weird, but it also isn't weird because the way religious freedom, and it allows them to work at public schools, but at private schools they're not allowed to work because of the way a slight emancipation, which basically states in religious beliefs that you can't be a minister if you're married to somebody of the same sex, you can't teach, even though it is slightly against the law, as other people have found out, and even though in the case of Iowa, where 2 teachers that were of the same sex were fired only a week apart from each other, and it caused a lot of controversy between people because the way they were like, why were they fired? Because that slight emancipation which was introduced, which is our religious freedom, which states that they can do things, even though the Archbishop, even though 31 or 6% of people actually believed that it was fine. But because of that slight emancipation, and they also had certain things that even if they were married to somebody that was the same sex, they had to, and they were in gatherings with children, they should not talk about this, they shouldn't allow it, they shouldn't teach about it, because the way they're in a religious institute, so why are you going to teach them about something that we don't believe? And they also highly recommend that you, whenever they were in a gathering, that if they did have their partner there, that they didn't show affection towards their other significant other because the way it was not in their beliefs. And as for not getting cake or consumer goods from weddings, whenever this thing decides to load, thank you. As you can see, there's a cake symbol. There was a case on USSupremeCourt.com that one gay couple, two men decided to go to the Supreme Court and argued that they should have gotten their services and goods. Well, the Supreme Court decided no, you should not get your goods and services because this other man's religion says, yeah, it's in my religious belief that I shouldn't have to provide you. It's in my religion that I shouldn't give you cake. And they allowed it, but they didn't say, it wasn't talked about in there if he was in future events, and since he lived in Colorado, if he was allowed to do this again. But in that case, they said it was fine because the way it was in his religious beliefs. So it also applied to like a florist, because the way they can choose what they're selling, but they cannot choose their customers. So a florist could say the same thing as with going into the cake thing, where they could say, let's say their religion is Christianity or Buddhism, which I don't know anything about, but let's just say that they say dating somebody or marrying somebody in the same sex is wrong, and your religion doesn't believe that, and they're a florist, and somebody wants to take this to court, and the court says no. Well, it's their religious belief and their religious freedom, which is allowing them not to provide it, so that they don't have to worry. And that is all I have. So the one thing I want to leave you with is the next time that you see somebody that is of the same sex couple, if they're married, they're dating, look at them and really thank them, because the way they're adopting most of our children that are actually unadopted. And that is all that I have. Thank you.